Why, hello everybody. In today's video, what I want to talk to you about are high doses of psilocybin. In this video, what I'm really going to focus on relating to high doses of psilocybin are what I perceive as mysteries or unaddressed questions that us as a culture and also the scientific community has yet to answer about psilocybin. There are many strange things that occur when this substance is taken that there currently is actually no scientific understanding of whatsoever. So I'm going to dive into a list of some of these perceived mysteries, and maybe you guys can help me unravel them together. So let's just jump right into that. Alright, so the first thing on my list here that I absolutely consider a fundamental mystery of psilocybin is what happens as the dose increases. Now, you may not know this, but psilocybin is an extremely untoxic molecule. That essentially means that people could, if they wished, eat 10, 20, 25 grams of dried magic mushrooms, and yet we don't. And I find this absolutely fascinating because if you talk to anybody who does high doses of mushrooms, including myself who has done up to 10 grams total, they will tell you that as you start taking more, phenomena becomes extremely strange. Mystical, religious, archetypal experiences are almost bound to happen. Many people report speaking to beings, many people report telepathy, and we're actually going to get into that later in the video. And so I want to address the fact that we don't know much about what happens as humans continue to take high doses of psilocybin. And so I've actually learned a lot from a man named Kalindi Lee on YouTube recently, where he talks about states that he's experienced on upwards of 20 grams of magic mushrooms, and it just really sparked an absolute fire in me for research, because this is an unknown area of the human psyche. We know that things become more mystical as magic mushroom dose increases, and yet there are so few brave psychonauts willing to push this threshold. And I actually did a bit of research and looked into some people who have done this, and they all have extremely profound things to say. And so now I'm in this position where, guys, I'm quite certain I'm about to embark on a journey to start slowly increasing my dose of magic mushrooms up to 20, maybe greater than 20 grams, because there's nothing being answered about these questions. I personally believe that it is extremely important that we start testing individuals with large and safe doses of psilocybin just in order to ask the basic fundamental scientific question: are these experiences repeatable? Another major mystery about psilocybin that our culture needs to explore is, what is the ultimate healing potential of psilocybin? As I'm sure many of you are aware, amazing studies have been being released recently showing the anti-addictive and therapeutic potential of psilocybin. And strangely enough, psilocybin is outperforming many medications that currently exist. And interestingly enough, this experience is almost always considered beneficial when a spiritual experience occurs as well. So many of the individuals in these studies who report better sense of well-being and a better integration in life itself after being tested with doses of psilocybin almost always report a spiritual experience as well. And so I think it's important for us as a culture to understand what it means that some of the best healing that is being done currently is being done by a molecule that is mediating a spiritual experience. Why is the encounter with the divine and the spiritual and the sacred, why is that so healing? Now, while I just talked about individual healing, one of the things that we also need to try to understand about psilocybin are what the upper limits are to group experiences on high doses of psilocybin. It is known that many cultures had rituals that were induced by high doses of psychedelics. And if you ask many people currently alive who have done psilocybin in high doses in groups, they are not shy to tell you that they experience states similar to telepathy, mind melding, and many other what you might call woo-woo phenomena. But I'm interested in being open-minded here, and when a large group of people are reporting the same effect after taking a high dose of one type of molecule, it's absolutely worth looking into whether human potential is actually far greater than we believe it is. I mean, if you just look back 200 years in scientific understanding, we would be laughing at the scientists of that era. How arrogant would it be to assume that we understand everything about consciousness and the human mind currently? We know almost nothing about consciousness, and it's not a false thing to say that. It is to be extremely honest to say that we do not understand how matter arranges itself into a conscious state. So as I've been thinking about the potential of group experiences on high doses of psilocybin, I've been thinking maybe it's time for us as a culture to start talking about reintegrating the role of the shaman, the role of the individual who can mediate a group's journey through a high-dose psychedelic experience. Maybe there should be centers where people can go and en masse perform a ritual together and reinstate contact with who they are in their most primitive sense. Maybe that would be one of the most powerful remedies for the burnout that we all experience in modern culture, if we could all go to some type of center and perform in some collaborative ritual together on a psychedelic. Now, I'm aware that on the surface, a large group of individuals performing a collaborative act together on a high dose of psilocybin may seem very hippie-ish or perhaps even cultish to do, but let's remind ourselves that our ancestors were not shy about taking psychedelics and performing rituals. And if we want to find some type of stability in our new modern context, perhaps we can learn something about the rituals of the past and how maybe we can bring them into a modern context. Another fundamental mystery about high doses of psilocybin, as well as other psychedelics, are whether or not the things that many people see on high doses of psilocybin are coming from the outside in or the inside out. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, are we projecting these experiences, or are they coming to us from an unknown source? When you take a high dose of psilocybin, it's not uncommon at all to be exposed to architecture and symbolism that seems to be coming from a culture you are in no way related to. And so that is what has sparked this question in me. Are there things that can be shown to people on high doses of psilocybin that are actually not originally being produced by the human psyche? It's quite easy for us to assume that when today we see the pyramids or Aztec architecture or many ancient forms of form, shape, and symbolism, it's easy to say that we're just being influenced by what we've seen of that. But is it possible that actually the ancients were seeing that as well, and that many of these things that have lasted throughout time and have been built were shown to the ancients when on high doses of psilocybin or other psychedelics? I'm fully willing to get esoteric here and just start picturing that world, because it doesn't seem that impossible to me. It doesn't seem unfeasible that an ancient Aztec man had a powerful vision on a dose of psilocybin mushrooms that drew him to build this amazing structure. Maybe they were modeling what they were seeing. One thing is quite apparent to me about high doses of psilocybin relating to religions, and that is that it almost seems like all religions are grasping at this fundamental state that encapsulates the psychedelic experience. The states that religions describe trying to reach of divinity and the sacred are what is purely accessible by high doses of psychedelics. So it's extremely likely that our ancestors' religious experiences were heavily mediated by use of these substances. After being exposed to these things on high doses of psilocybin, it's completely fair to ask, are cultural memories real somehow? Are genetic memories inherited? Is this possible? Because some of the things that you see just don't seem to be explainable by reference to things that you've seen before. So it's actually quite interesting when we think about this, because Albert Hofmann, the man who synthesized psilocybin and synthesized LSD as well, he gave patients doses of psilocybin in Switzerland, I believe, and they reported extreme visuals related to what later he described as Central American or Mexican culture. So how fascinating that these Swiss patients given psilocybin in roughly, I guess, the 60s were having powerful, who knows, maybe Aztec or Mayan visions. Now, the inner scientist in me wants to be skeptical, but he is also so absolutely fascinated that these cultural phenomena can almost be transported in discrete packets with these molecules. Now, the next mystery that I want to talk about related to high doses of psilocybin is about perception. I think in this area, a lot of people fundamentally misunderstand what psilocybin is. Psilocybin is not a deliriant. It is not something that after you've taken it from a mushroom, you feel as though you've been poisoned and now you cannot function. Psilocybin clearly increases perception. When you are looking at a field on a high dose of psilocybin, you can see every blade of grass. You can see every part of the dirt. You can see everything in exquisite detail. So if you ask anybody about high doses of psilocybin, they're going to tell you that perception increases. Now, this is where I believe the mystery comes in. So if this is true, that we can now perceive many more things, why are we being so hesitant to reject what we are seeing on high doses of psilocybin? It just strikes me as a strange assumption to make that while the brain is simultaneously able to see more, abstract more, and actually just all around have greater access to thoughts, ideas, and actually visual phenomenon, why are we assuming that we shouldn't take those seriously? Currently, the scientific model is that it's all just a hallucination. It's just projections being made by your mind. But I think that's actually a pretty quick dismissal of something that is far deeper than that. The ability that we are being granted on high doses of psilocybin is something that has hardly been researched whatsoever. It's just quite clear to me that we should be using psilocybin as a tool. We should be using psilocybin as something that, for reasons we do not understand, increases our perception and ability to understand the complexity of the world and the dynamics that are entrenched in it, and we should be using that. We should be using the superpower that psilocybin gives us to explore the depths of the human mind and perhaps ideas that actually cannot be understood without full use of the brain in all forms. I guess fundamentally, the increased awareness and perception that high doses and even higher doses of psilocybin give you are what make me so open-minded and not so hasty to reject claims that people have spoken with interdimensional beings or had telepathic experiences, because to me, an increased awareness in the mind is directly correlated with experiencing more phenomena that we normally wouldn't be able to perceive. Our culture is actually at the infancy of understanding the role of psilocybin in it, and I think it's important that individuals start speaking out about their experiences on psychedelics, because we are in the absolute renaissance of a time period where people can share ideas back and forth at an extremely rapid rate. People now can quickly log and share their trip reports, and experiences can be amalgamated and maybe conclusions can be drawn. This is the time where people need to be sharing more than ever. People need to be talking about the high dose phenomena that they are experiencing. And so that is why I'm going to, in the following months, be exploring high doses of psilocybin, because this is a space that I hope people will start responsibly and safely exploring. I think that's going to bring an end to my list there of some of the scientific mysteries that we should be discussing about high doses of psilocybin. I want to again advertise my Discord, which is a like-minded community of now almost 1,000 individuals who just love to talk about psychedelics and everything related to it. I also want to talk about something you can do to help support this YouTube channel if you're so interested. You can click down below in the description on my Amazon affiliate link and do any shopping whatsoever, and I get a little kickback, so I get some support and you get to support me for no money. I think it's a pretty good trade. And so I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. See ya.